Adam Sandler stood in his kitchen, staring at the flyer he'd torn off a telephone pole on his morning walk. Worst cake contest, it proclaimed in garish Comic Sans font. Show us your most horrific culinary disaster. $10,000 prize. The competition was being hosted by a quirky local cable show called Kitchen Catastrophes, and something about it sparked his interest. After all, how hard could it be to make a terrible cake? His recent string of hit movies had left him feeling a bit too polished, too successful. Maybe this was exactly what he needed, a chance to embrace failure, to get back to his roots of cheerful incompetence. Plus, the prize money would go to charity, which seemed like a nice touch. Hey Rob, he called his best friend Rob Schneider, who happened to be crashing on his couch that week. Want to help me make the worst cake ever? Rob's head popped up from behind the couch, hair disheveled. You mean like that time you tried to make your mom's birthday cake in '89? That was an accident, Adam protested, running a hand through his curly hair. This time, I'm going to be terrible on purpose. The kitchen soon looked like a war zone. Adam had pulled out every implement he owned, most of them still in their original packaging. His wife Jackie had always been the cook in the family, and she was conveniently away at a spa weekend with their daughters. The perfect time for some culinary mayhem. Okay, so what makes a cake bad? Adam mused, pulling out random ingredients. Fish sauce? Pickles? Garlic powder? Rob lounged against the counter, filming everything on his phone. Don't forget the time you put salt instead of sugar in those cookies for that girl you liked in high school. That's ancient history, man, Adam grumbled, but he was grinning. He dumped some flour into a bowl, creating a mushroom cloud that coated his face and expensive t-shirt in white powder. I'm thinking we go with chocolate. Everyone loves chocolate, so when I ruin it, it'll be even worse. What happened next could only be described as orchestrated chaos. Adam mixed ingredients with the enthusiasm of a 5-year-old making mud pies, completely ignoring measurements and proper technique. He added hot sauce, pickled onions, and even a splash of energy drink for good measure. The batter turned an ominous shade of gray-brown and smelled like a convenience store dumpster. This is gonna be epic, Rob wheezed through his laughter, still recording. The judges are gonna hate it so much. You'll win for sure. Adam poured the batter into a pan and shoved it into the oven, setting the temperature to what he assumed was right. 475 degrees Fahrenheit seemed fine, right? While they waited, he and Rob worked on the frosting, which ended up looking like something from a horror movie, lumpy, oddly sparkly from the energy drink, and an unnatural shade of purple-brown. 45 minutes later, smoke started seeping from the oven. Adam yanked open the door, waving away clouds of acrid smoke, and pulled out his creation. The cake had risen unevenly, creating what looked like a miniature mountain range. The edges were blackened, and the center had collapsed into itself like a chocolate black hole. Perfect, Adam exclaimed, letting it cool before attempting to frost it. The frosting process went about as well as expected. The cake crumbled under his enthusiastic spreading, and chunks of it mixed with the frosting to create what looked like purple mud with chocolate rocks. Dude, Rob said, zooming in with his phone, this is either going to win you first place or get you arrested for attempting to create a biological weapon. Adam stepped back to admire his handiwork. The cake looked like something that had crawled out of a swamp and died. It was precisely what he'd been aiming for. Or so he thought. That evening, Adam decided to test his creation on his neighbor, Mr. Peterson, an elderly gentleman who always complimented Jackie's baking. Mr. Peterson took one look at the cake and burst out laughing, but being a good sport, he agreed to try it. And that's when things got weird. Mr. Peterson took a bite, his face prepared for disgust. But then his expression changed. He chewed thoughtfully, took another bite, and then another. Adam, he said slowly, this is interesting. The complexity of flavors, the way the spice hits the back of the throat, the unusual texture. It's unlike anything I've ever tasted before. It's actually fascinating. Adam stared at him in horror. But it's supposed to be terrible. I put pickled onions in it. Yes, and they provide an unexpected umami that complements the chocolate in a surprisingly sophisticated way. The heat from the hot sauce builds gradually, and that energy drink adds an almost effervescent quality. It's like avant-garde cuisine. Rob, who had been recording the whole thing, collapsed onto the couch in fits of laughter. Only you, Sandler. Only you could try to make the worst cake ever and accidentally create some kind of gourmet masterpiece. Adam sat down heavily, looking at his creation with new eyes. This was not how it was supposed to go. The competition was in 3 days, and he'd somehow managed to make something that, while visually appalling, was apparently tasty in a weird, experimental way. I need to try again, he declared, standing up with determination. Tomorrow, we're going to make something so horrible, so inedible, that not even the most adventurous food critic would touch it. But as Mr. Peterson happily finished his slice and asked for another, Adam had a sinking feeling that this quest for failure might be harder than he'd anticipated. What he didn't know was that this was just the beginning of a series of increasingly bizarre attempts to create the world's worst cake, attempts that would somehow turn him into the most accidentally innovative baker in Los Angeles. Rob was still filming, and Adam could already imagine this footage going viral. Hey, at least if this ends up on the internet, it can't be worse than Jack and Jill, he muttered, watching in disbelief as Mr. Peterson wrapped up a piece of the cake to take home to his wife. As the sun set over his Los Angeles home, Adam Sandler, successful actor and now apparently accidental culinary innovator, began planning his next attempt at failure. Little did he know, his journey to create the worst cake would lead him down a path he never expected, starting a chain of events that would change not only his life but the entire Los Angeles food scene. The next morning, Adam woke up to his phone buzzing incessantly. Rob's video of the cake tasting had somehow leaked on his social media, and it was spreading faster than butter on hot toast. #SandlerBakes was trending, and food critics were writing think pieces about his subversive take on traditional desserts. This is a nightmare, Adam groaned, scrolling through thousands of comments. His inbox was flooded with requests for the recipe, which he'd created by literally throwing things into a bowl at random. Even Gordon Ramsay had tweeted, "Finally, Sandler makes something that doesn't make me want to punch a wall. #unexpectedly brilliant." His wife Jackie called from the spa, laughing so hard she could barely speak. "Honey, did you really put energy drink in a chocolate cake?" "I was trying to make it bad," Adam protested, pacing around his kitchen. "Nobody was supposed to like it." "Well, our daughters just showed me a TikTok of people trying to recreate your chaos cake." "That's what they're calling it, by the way. You're officially a food influencer now." Adam slumped against the counter, watching as Rob let himself in through the back door, carrying several grocery bags. "Round 2, baby," Rob announced cheerfully. "I brought everything weird I could find at the store. Sardines, licorice, blue cheese, and look," he pulled out a jar with a flourish, pickled watermelon rind. "This time," Adam declared, tying on an apron that read "Kiss the Cook," a gag gift from Kevin James. "We're going nuclear. No more accidental masterpieces. This cake is going to be so bad, it'll make people wish they'd never been born with taste buds." They set to work, but this time they had an audience. Rob had set up a live stream, and over 100,000 people were watching Adam Sandler attempt to bake the world's worst cake. The comments section was chaos. "Is this performance art? Sandler for Iron Chef. This is the greatest comeback story since Mickey Rourke." Adam ignored them all, focusing on his mission. He mixed together chocolate powder, sardines, and blue cheese with the determination of a man possessed. The batter looked promising, a sickly grayish blue that seemed to pulse ominously in the bowl. He added the pickled watermelon rind, chopped into tiny pieces, and a healthy dose of wasabi for good measure. "The secret ingredient," he announced to the camera with maniacal glee, "is betrayal." He dumped in a handful of candy corn, summer's hottest debate topic. The smell coming from the oven as the cake baked was indescribable. Even Rob had to step outside for air a few times. When Adam finally pulled out his creation, it looked like something H.P. Lovecraft might have dreamed up, asymmetrical, vaguely threatening, and seemingly defying the laws of physics. "Now that's more like it," Adam exclaimed triumphantly. The cake appeared to be sweating, and one side had developed what looked like scales. But the universe, it seemed, had other plans. Just as they were about to test the cake, there was a knock at the door. Standing on Adam's porch was none other than David Chong, the famous chef and restaurateur, who had apparently been watching the live stream and decided to drop by. "Mr. Sandler," Chong said, his eyes gleaming with excitement, "I believe you've accidentally invented something revolutionary. Your first cake? That combination of unexpected flavors? Pure genius. And now this." He gestured to the eldritch horror cooling on the counter. This could change everything. Before Adam could stop him, Chong had cut himself a slice of the new cake. The livestream audience held their collective breath. Rob zoomed in on Chang's face as he took a bite. The celebrity chef's eyes widened. He chewed slowly, thoughtfully. The umami from the sardines, the funk of the blue cheese, the bright acidity of the pickled watermelon rind. And is that candy corn providing textural contrast? This is horrible, Adam asked hopefully. Brilliant, Chang exclaimed. It's like nothing I've ever tasted before. The flavors shouldn't work together, but they do. It's challenging, yes, but in the way that makes you want to keep eating, to understand it better. You've created something entirely new here. Adam sat down heavily on a kitchen stool, head in his hands. But I'm trying to make something bad for a contest. Bad? Chang laughed. Mr. Sandler, you're revolutionizing modern pastry. This is like punk rock in cake form. It's anti-establishment baking. It's performance art, Rob supplied helpfully, still filming everything. By that evening, Adam's second cake had gone even more viral than the first. Food magazines were calling it the Sandler method, the art of combining seemingly incompatible ingredients to create something unexpectedly delicious. Culinary schools were discussing adding courses on intuitive chaos baking. I just wanted to make a bad cake, Adam whispered to himself as he watched Chang enthusiastically explain the cake's flavor profile to the live stream audience. Just one terrible, horrible, inedible cake. Rob patted his shoulders sympathetically. Look on the bright side. Maybe the third time's the charm? Adam straightened up, a new determination in his eyes. The contest was tomorrow, and he had one last chance to create something truly awful. This time, he wouldn't live stream it. This time, there would be no celebrity chefs or viral videos. This time, he would embrace his inner awfulness and create something so monumentally bad that not even the most adventurous foodie would dare to call it innovative. But as he began planning his final attempt, Adam couldn't shake the nagging suspicion that his destiny as an accidental culinary revolutionary was already sealed. Somewhere out there, someone was probably already writing a cookbook based on his chaotic methods. Hey, Rob said, checking his phone, you're not going to believe this, but Martha Stewart just tweeted that she wants to collaborate on a holiday special. Adam groaned and reached for the pickle jar. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. The morning of the contest arrived with Adam barricading himself in his kitchen. He had unplugged the Wi-Fi router, covered all the windows with aluminum foil, and hung a "Do Not Disturb, yes, this means you, ROB" sign on the door. This time, there would be no audience, no live stream, no well-meaning celebrity chefs dropping by to praise his culinary disasters. Just me, these ingredients, and my commitment to failure, Adam muttered, surveying the items he'd gathered for his final attempt. He'd raided his daughter's science experiment supplies, his garden shed, and the darkest corners of his pantry. The resulting collection looked less like baking ingredients and more like evidence in a crime scene investigation. The centerpiece was a bottle of his grandfather's homemade prune wine from 1987, discovered in the basement behind a stack of old scripts. It had developed a color that didn't exist in nature and made concerning noises when shaken. Perfect. His phone, which he'd kept on airplane mode, buzzed with a text from Jackie. Good luck making something terrible, honey. By the way, Food and Wine magazine wants to do a cover story on you. Adam ignored it and began his work. No measuring cups this time. He was going purely by instinct and his burning desire to create something genuinely inedible. Into the bowl went the prune wine, creating a suspicious fog. He added some mushroom powder he'd found growing in the garden shed, expired baking soda from 2018, and a packet of sugar-free gummy bears that had gained notoriety on Amazon for their digestive effects. Take that, David Chang, he growled, aggressively whisking the batter that was now beginning to glow faintly in the dim kitchen light. Let's see you find the unexpected harmony in this culinary crime against humanity. The mixture had developed a consciousness by the time he added the final ingredients. Some mysterious fermented sauce his neighbor had brought back from Tibet. The label had worn off, leaving only the warning "Use with caution," and for the coup de grace. A generous helping of durian fruit that had been ripening in his garage for 2 weeks. The smell was spectacular. It had transcended mere bad and achieved something close to metaphysical wrongness. Even the plants on the windowsill were leaning away from the bowl. As Adam poured the batter into the pan, he could have sworn it whispered something in Latin. The oven seemed reluctant to accept the cake, but he persevered, setting the temperature to a precise 337 degrees, because even the cooking temperature should be slightly wrong. While the cake baked, Adam worked on the frosting. He'd found a recipe online titled "World's Worst Buttercream" and decided to make it worse. He replaced the butter with a vegan substitute that had expired during the Obama administration, added some food coloring that turned it the exact shade of a warning sign, and threw in some pop rocks for unstable texture. The oven timer dinged, but it sounded afraid. Adam pulled out his creation and nearly wept with joy. It was hideous. The cake had risen in all the wrong places, created its own geometric shapes, and appeared to be slowly shifting color like a mood ring having an existential crisis. The surface was cratered like the moon, but the craters seemed to be slowly moving around. Finally, he whispered, something truly, irredeemably terrible. He frosted the cake with trembling hands. The pop rocks kept trying to escape, and the frosting developed patches that looked like they were attempting to spell out warnings in various languages. When he finally finished, he stepped back to admire his work. It was beautiful in its awfulness. The kind of cake that could make professional bakers change careers. It defied description, photography, and possibly several laws of physics. The air around it seemed to warp slightly, and he could have sworn he heard it humming the theme from The Twilight Zone. Just then, there was a knock at the door. "Go away, Rob," Adam shouted. "It's not Rob," came a familiar voice. "It's Ben Stiller. Listen, man, there's like 200 people out here, including 3 Michelin-starred chefs, Gordon Ramsay, and I think the ghost of Julia Child. They've been camping out all night waiting to see your next creation." Adam looked at his cake, which had started to develop what appeared to be defensive spines. "Tell them to go home. This one's not for public consumption. This one's for the contest." About that, Ben called through the door. "The contest organizers are here too. They want to withdraw your entry." "What?" Adam yanked open the door, forgetting his self-imposed isolation. "Why?" Ben, looking uncomfortable, handed him a tablet showing the contest's official social media announcement. Due to Adam Sandler's clearly demonstrated mastery of innovative baking techniques and his revolutionary contributions to modern gastronomy, we regretfully must disqualify him from the worst cake contest. It would be unfair to other contestants to compete against someone of his obvious culinary genius. Adam stared at the screen in horror. Behind Ben, he could see the crowd of food enthusiasts, critics, and celebrities gathered on his lawn. Several of them were holding signs that read, "We believe in Sandler," and "Chaos Baking Forever." But... Adam gestured helplessly at his latest creation, which had now developed a slight gravitational pull. "This one's actually bad. Look at it. It's an affront to nature." Gordon Ramsay pushed his way forward, peering at the cake with professional interest. "Bloody hell, Sandler, you've done it again. The asymmetrical structure, the quantum unstable frosting, the postmodern approach to color theory. It's absolutely magnificent." "Is that prune wine I detect?" called out a voice from the crowd. "The vintage must be at least 35 years old. The complexity it would add to the flavor profile." Adam slumped against the doorframe, defeated. Even his worst failure had somehow transformed into a success. The cake, sensing its moment, let out what sounded suspiciously like a purr. "Fine," he sighed, stepping aside to let the crowd of culinary enthusiasts into his kitchen. "But nobody sue me if they start hearing colors after eating this one." As the excited crowd surged forward, Rob appeared at his side, camera in hand as always. "So, what's next? Iron Chef? A cooking show? Your own restaurant chain?" Adam watched as Martha Stewart and Gordon Ramsay engaged in a heated debate about the cake's metaphysical frosting technique. Somewhere in the crowd, someone was already writing a doctoral thesis on the Sandler effect in postmodern baking. "Next," Adam said with grim determination, "we try to make the world's worst pizza. There's no way I can accidentally revolutionize pizza, right?" Rob just laughed and kept filming as the cake, now the center of attention, began to harmonize with itself in 3-part harmony. 1 week after the contest debacle, Adam found himself sitting in the green room at The Tonight Show, waiting to be interviewed not about his latest movie, but about his revolutionary approach to culinary arts. His last cake, dubbed the Quantum Cake by food critics, had somehow ended up in the Museum of Modern Art's permanent collection, suspended in a climate-controlled case where it continued to occasionally hum show tunes. "I don't get it," he complained to Rob, who was still documenting everything. "I tried to make something horrible. It literally defied the laws of physics. How is that revolutionary?" "Hey, at least you raised the $10,000 for charity anyway," Rob replied, checking his phone. "That GoFundMe your fans started has hit $2 million. They want you to open a culinary school." Before Adam could respond, a producer poked her head in. "Mr. Sandler? You're on in 5. "Oh, and Wolfgang Puck is here too. He says he needs to discuss your paradigm-shifting approach to entropy in desserts." Adam buried his face in his hands. His inbox was flooded with offers from publishing houses wanting his cookbook, requests for collaboration from molecular gastronomy experts, and an invitation to give a TED Talk titled The Beautiful Chaos of Failure. What bad cakes teach us about innovation? His phone buzzed with a text from Jackie. Honey, our daughter's school called. The chemistry teacher wants you to give a guest lecture on the science of spontaneous culinary evolution. Also, the CIA wants to talk to you. The CIA? Adam texted back, alarmed. The Culinary Institute of America, silly. Although the actual CIA did call too. Something about your cakes defying known laws of thermodynamics. The Tonight Show interview went about as well as could be expected. Jimmy Fallon couldn't stop laughing as Adam described his desperate attempts to make something terrible, and the audience went wild when Wolfgang Puck declared that Sandler has done for baking what Jackson Pollock did for painting. But here's the thing, Adam tried to explain, I wasn't trying to be innovative. I was trying to be bad at something. Exactly, Wolfgang exclaimed. That's what makes it genius. You freed us from the constraints of traditional culinary rules. Your cakes asked the question, why must food make sense? The audience applauded wildly. Someone in the front row was wearing a t-shirt with Adam's face and the slogan, Bake Chaos into Beauty. After the show, Adam retreated to his hotel room, only to find it filled with gift baskets from various culinary organizations. The Food Network had sent over a contract for a show called Sandler's Kitchen Chaos. Anthony Bourdain had somehow managed to send a message from the great beyond saying, finally, someone who understands that cooking is about anarchy. Rob, Adam said, picking up what appeared to be a formal invitation from the James Beard Foundation, we need to fix this. Fix what? You're a culinary genius. They're calling you the bad boy of baking, the punk rock pastry chef, the anarchist of angel food. Exactly. I'm Adam Sandler. I'm supposed to be making people laugh, not revolutionizing the culinary arts. There's only one way to end this. Rob looked nervous. What are you thinking? Adam's eyes gleamed with determination. We're going to make a cooking show. But not just any cooking show. We're going to make the worst cooking show in history. It'll be so bad, so chaotic, that everyone will finally realize this was all just a big mistake. Adam? Remember what happened the last time you tried to make something bad on purpose? But Adam wasn't listening. He was already scribbling notes. Episode 1. How to make a pizza with breakfast cereal and feelings. Rob sighed and kept filming as Adam outlined his plan for culinary counter-revolution. Outside the hotel, fans had gathered with signs reading Teach US Your Ways and Chaos is Delicious. Somewhere in Los Angeles, the Quantum Cake hummed another show tune, and a new batch of culinary students enrolled in the hastily created Principles of Chaotic Baking course at Le Cordon Bleu. And in Adam's mind, a new plan was forming, one that would either finally prove he was a terrible chef or, more likely, accidentally revolutionize the entire concept of cooking shows forever. The studio lights blazed as Adam stood behind a kitchen counter, wearing a chef's coat that he'd intentionally put on backwards. It was the premiere episode of his new Food Network show, Sandler's Kitchen Nightmares, not the Gordon Ramsay kind. Today, he announced to the camera, with Rob directing, we're going to make what I'm calling breakfast pizza a la chaos. And I promise you, it's going to be terrible. The live studio audience, filled with both curious foodies and loyal fans, watched in anticipation. Despite Adam's insistence that the show would prove once and for all that he was no culinary genius, Food Network had received record-breaking advertising requests for the premiere. First, Adam said, dumping an entire box of Captain Crunch onto the counter, we're going to make our crust. Instead of pizza dough, we're using crushed cereal held together with marshmallow fluff and regret. He began smashing the cereal with a rubber mallet, sending pieces flying everywhere. In the front row, a food critic from the New York Times was frantically taking notes. Sandler deconstructs the very concept of a pizza crust, challenging our preconceptions about the boundaries between breakfast and dinner. No. Adam pointed the mallet at the critic. Stop that. This isn't innovative. It's just wrong. He turned back to his work, mixing the crushed cereal with an entire jar of marshmallow fluff using a snorkel instead of a spoon. See? This is ridiculous. Brilliant. Someone in the audience shouted. He's reimagining the very tools of culinary creation. Adam groaned but pressed on. For the sauce, he blended together ketchup, chocolate milk, and leftover coffee from the green room. The mixture turned an alarming shade of brown and began to move of its own accord. This is definitely going to be disgusting, he said hopefully. Martha Stewart, who had insisted on being a guest judge, nodded approvingly. The way he fearlessly combines opposing flavors, it's like watching Picasso paint with condiments. The topping choices were equally chaotic. Adam scattered gummy worms, pickled watermelon, his new trademark, beef jerky, and sprayed cheese in a pattern he claimed was inspired by his daughter's kindergarten art. The studio lights made the spray cheese glisten ominously. And for the final touch, he declared, reaching under the counter, something that will prove once and for all that I'm not a culinary genius. He pulled out his secret weapon, a can of sardines that had been sitting in his garage since Y2K. The audience gasped. Gordon Ramsay, watching the live feed from his restaurant in London, spilled his tea. Even Rob looked concerned. Adam, Rob warned, maybe we should think about this. But Adam was beyond reason. He opened the can, and the studio filled with an aroma that could only be described as apocalyptic. The front row of the audience ducked for cover. A potted plant in the corner withered and died. Now, Adam said triumphantly, arranging the ancient sardines on top of his creation, we bake it at whatever temperature the oven happens to be set to, because chaos knows no precise measurements. As the pizza baked, the studio began to fill with an otherworldly smell. The camera operators put on gas masks. Martha Stewart remained serenely in her seat, though her perfect posture seemed slightly stiffer than usual. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. Adam pulled the pizza from the oven with oven mitts designed to look like tiny hands, his one concession to his wife's suggestion to at least try to make it look professional. The pizza was indescribable. It had developed layers that weren't there when it went in. The gummy worms had melted into psychedelic swirls, the ancient sardines had somehow transformed into something iridescent, and the whole thing pulsed gently like a distant galaxy. There, Adam declared. Finally, something so obviously terrible that no one could possibly. Magnificent, the entire audience roared in unison. What happened next would be talked about in culinary circles for years to come. The pizza, defying all logic and several international treaties, turned out to be not just edible but revolutionary. The aged sardines had somehow transformed the entire composition into what one food critic described as a transcendent exploration of time, texture, and taste. Orders began pouring in from high-end restaurants worldwide. 3 Michelin stars spontaneously appeared on Adam's chef coat. A new culinary movement called Sandlerism was born on the spot. As the audience swarmed the stage, demanding samples and autographs, Adam sat down heavily on a nearby stool. Rob approached, still filming. Maybe, Rob suggested gently, it's time to accept that you have a gift? Adam looked at the chaos around him. Martha Stewart explaining the genius of his temperature-agnostic baking method to the cameras, Gordon Ramsay FaceTiming in to demand the recipe, his pizza being carefully transported to the Smithsonian for preservation. And suddenly, finally, Adam Sandler began to laugh. You know what, he said, watching as a group of prestigious chefs studied his backwards chef coat as if it held the secrets of the universe. Maybe being accidentally good at something isn't the worst thing in the world. So, you're going to embrace being a culinary revolutionary? Well, Adam grinned, removing his backwards chef coat. Let's just say I've got some ideas for a sushi burrito ice cream cake that's going to either win me a Nobel Prize or get me banned from the Food Network forever. The show became the highest-rated cooking show in television history. Adam's catchphrase, "This is definitely going to be disgusting," entered the pop culture lexicon. His backwards chef coat style started a new fashion trend in professional kitchens worldwide. And somewhere in New York, displayed proudly at the Museum of Modern Art, the quantum cake continued to hum Broadway tunes, a testament to the beautiful accidents that happen when you embrace chaos in the kitchen. As for the original worst cake contest, they were named at the Adam Sandler Innovation in Baking Competition, where contestants now compete to create the most wonderfully wrong desserts possible. And Adam? He finally learned to stop fighting his accidental genius and embrace the chaos. After all, he realized, making people happy with food wasn't so different from making them laugh. Sometimes the best results come when you least expect them.
Tell us in the comments what part of this story impressed you the most. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next videos. See you in the world of incredible events.